I'm Angie with Peach Orchid Creations, and welcome to week 10, block 9 for Quilt Camp Quilt Along 2021. This week's block is snack time, and its focus is on curves. Don't let the curves scare you off. I'm here with this tutorial to show you exactly how to cut and piece these curves, and the foundation paper piecing also involved in this pattern. You can handle it. I promise. We're going to go through step by step. So when you get your pattern, in the back are the templates. You'll have the cone template, which is a foundation paper piece template, and then you'll have your ice cream template, the curved pieces template. So after you print, the first thing you're going to want to do after you print is take your ruler and make sure that these little squares measure 1 inch. So just lay your ruler on top. If it measures 1 inch, awesome. If it doesn't, you can either enlarge it or reduce it on a copier, or change the print percentage size on your print settings when you go to print this off. You will need to print 3 of these total. So the first one will print when you print the whole pattern, and then print 2 more of these and cut them out. Let's start with the foundation paper piecing templates. You will cut out the square to this. And then these other templates that are on the other 2 pages are so you can have the right size fabric to lay on here to sew onto the paper. So foundation paper piecing, you will sew directly onto this paper. You'll actually sew onto these lines on this one. And these templates are to make sure that the fabric you cut is the correct size and will cover the space as you do that. So that's what these are. When you're cutting the templates, all the templates have a number. So in the pattern, it'll tell you how many of each number, T1, T2, T3. It'll tell you exactly how many to cut and of what color of each of the templates. When you're cutting these templates for the foundation paper piecing, they don't have to be spot on exact. And I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second. So you will need 3 of these cut out. And I still need to cut that other one. And make sure you use paper scissors. Don't use your fabric scissors to cut on paper. And then up here we have your ice cream ones that you'll cut out. And you'll just cut them out, and you want to be pretty careful and cautious with these. Make sure that you cut just outside the black line. And then once you have these, you'll use these in a minute, and I'll show you how to cut the curves. A few easy ways to cut these curves so you can get as precise and give you a little boost for when you sew them later. So let's dive right in, and I'll show you how to cut these curved pieces. The first thing you're going to do is the largest edge on any of these curved templates is 3.5 inches. So I cut a 3.5 inch strip, and now I'm going to take that and cut a clean edge onto that. And now I can begin cutting my curved pieces. Do not let the curved pieces overwhelm you. It's so simple. You will become more comfortable with your rotary cutter as you do this. So I'm gonna start with this because I feel like it's more natural to cut the convex instead of the concave curve. I feel like it's easier to cut the outward curve than the inward curve. So we're gonna start here actually. Place that first template there. Place a ruler on the edge. And here's where the fun begins. We're going to keep the rotary cutter straight up and down, okay? Just enough pressure to, we're only going through 1 layer of fabric, so you don't have to have an immense amount of pressure. And as you do this, you're going to rotate the ruler around. And the template, the creative grids are extra grippy, so it doesn't always work best with the paper templates. So I'll switch it up and do this one so it doesn't catch as much. So one like this, see how it slides really well? The creative grids has that grip on it, and so it catches sometimes. So start with the ruler here, and then you're just going to slowly pivot the ruler and the rotary cutter around the curve. Nice and slow, straight up and down pressure. Da, 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 da. And then, oh, I caught right there. So then I just go back and I just do a little tiny cut, and there is my curved piece. That is one way to do it. It's okay if you shade the template a little bit. You can either print more or just know right there next time go a little bit wider. But that's how you do the curved template. And then you can come and do the next one. These are the same like this. I just did 2 to help people visualize it better. So if you want to layer the fabric and cut 2, that's totally your call. You can do it. You can handle it. Light pressure. Don't go crazy with the pressure. And you can use a ruler to guide you, or you can just carefully and slowly go do, 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 all the way around. Totally up to you, but you can do it. Have faith. Tell yourself you can, okay? And you can do it. And honestly, you can get that curved piece out of this. So if you want to waste even less fabric, you can totally cut, when you cut this T8 and T6 template, you can get these curved. I think they're 9 and, I don't know, 9 and 7. You can get those out of these little pieces. So if you want least amount of waste, that's one way to do it. So there are those. And now we get to do these inward curves or concave. They're a little more uncomfortable, but honestly, not bad at all. Remember, you only have to do 4, 6, 8. You only have to do 12 curves total. Like, that's like hardly nothing. You can do it. So let's start again. There's those. There's that one. They're just so cute. I love curves a lot. I have a whole other curved pattern. That's how much I like curves. Okay, so here you can just lay this along this edge and trim. These curved pieces you want pretty exact to my templates when you're cutting them, because you're not like, you're squaring the edge later, but you're not changing the curve. Foundation paper piecing, you're trimming and squaring as you go. These you're going to sew one curved seam, and then that's that, and you will square the edge if needed. So make sure that you are cutting these pretty stinking close, okay? So here we go. We're gonna start right in here. I like to do this first little bit without a ruler, but you can totally bump your ruler up there and then keep the rotary cutter up and down. And if you move slowly with consistent pressure, it's gonna just work its way right around. And I had a little bit where I didn't make contact. Not a big deal, go back, and there you go. Okay, and let me do the next one with the ruler. And that's all it is. Like, curves scare people, but don't let them. They open up a whole new world of quilting. I'm just trying to help y'all. I just want to help anybody that feels like that they might not be capable, or because you are capable, you're able to do this, so I have faith. So I just want to make it as easy. That one sticks so bad. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. The one time you don't want a ruler with a whole lot of grip is when you're doing curved cutting and you need a little bit of a guide. Okay. Put that to the side. And here we go. I'm just going to line it all back up. And I will use the ruler this time to guide me. And when you're standing straight over it, it's a lot easier than the angle. I'm trying not to get my head in the camera. Then you just slide the ruler up and ta-da! All done. So my tips on cutting curves. First, focus on the rotary cutter being straight up and down, not an angle, or you'll cut into your fabric or you'll overcut your fabric. Straight up and down. Light to moderate pressure, especially if you're only cutting through one layer of fabric, and a ruler to guide you, or just take it nice and slow and let that wheel just do what it does and slowly turn and cut through that fabric. You can do it. I have faith. You're gonna love it. And it's even cooler once you see them pieced. You're gonna wanna cut curves way more. So on to the foundation paper piecing. Those are cut. I've pre-cut all my other fabric because I didn't want y'all to have to sit here for like a decade and a half when it comes to fabric cutting. So all the other fabric is over here pre-cut. I just wanted to show you how to cut a few things so you didn't have too many questions like, why didn't you show us this week when the cutting's more complicated? So now I will move on. So foundation paper piecing. When you are cutting this, you just cut around the whole block, okay? These you cut out are your templates for the fabric you will use on these. It doesn't have to be perfect, so just slap this bad boy down. You can use a ruler to get you straighter cuts. That's not a problem, just like you did right there. Dun, 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 dun. And then flip it and go this way. But honestly, you can just kind of go around it, or if you have scrap pieces that are big enough, like, it's not a huge deal when it comes to foundation paper piecing, because you will square up and trim as you go. Alrighty, so once you've gotten all of your templates cut out, it's time to start piecing. So using the diagrams on the pattern, you'll see which colors to match up to which for these curved pieces. So for the first one, you'll need fabric A and fabric E. So fabric A is your cone piece. So there we go for me. And then fabric E is going to be your outer kind of background of the cone piece. So just use your diagram to match up your colors. So we have our pieces, and now we are going to get these ready to go through the machine. So if this is your first time sewing curves, I want you to go ahead and fold the curves, fold along the curved side, and just give a little finger press. This gives you just almost an aiming point for the curves, so as you're sewing them together, you can aim for that spot, okay? Then we're gonna flip, see how I did that? We're just gonna flip it over face down and bring it right here and put it about a 1/2 inch over, which let me see on my, about a 1/2 inch over the edge like that. And then if you need to, you can pin right there, okay? And then you can pin the center seam that we just finger pressed. And then you can kind of work your way around. And we have about a 1/4 inch hanging off over here, just a little under on this side when we get done. Okay. I don't like to pin all this. I feel like it adds so much to an already interesting situation. But if you feel comfortable, pin it to win it, people. Pin it to win it. You can add even 2 more pins if you wanted. I'm just not a huge pinner. But let's go ahead and get this bad boy into the machine. If anything on these, you can sew a scant 1/4 inch, so just to the inside of a 1/4 inch versus a really big and fat 1/4 inch. That will eat up a little more of the fabric and make things just a hair more difficult. So just be mindful of that. These pins are driving me nuts already because I don't do pins. I have to get rid of them. I just like to let it naturally follow the curve of the machine. Like the machine will pull it through. You'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna pull that first pin and just slowly start guiding it through. And I'll line up a little bit and then pivot and just work that curve through the machine. Do not pull this concave piece, this background piece. Don't pull it super hard. Just place it and keep on keeping on. Okay? If you get a pinch, lower the needle, lift the presser foot, and flatten out that pinch or crease that you created, okay? Get it flat, lower the presser foot, and keep going. Don't get upset, just keep going. Slow and steady will win the race of the day. If you get nervous, lower the needle, lift the foot, maneuver the fabric, but don't pull it. Okay? And just keep working your way around the curve. Okay? Whoops, and I accidentally, I'm on a different machine. My other machine, when I press my presser foot, it drops my presser foot for me, but not on this machine. I have to remember that. And then just keep working your way around the curve. And there you have it, your first curve. So you can tell I got a little big in some places. I have a little tiny pucker there. But other than that, it looks super good. So I'm going to press it back. You always want to iron towards the concave, towards your background piece, okay? So we're gonna iron towards the background piece. When you're ironing, try not to stretch out your fabric. Try just to iron it down If you have to do this a couple times to get comfortable, that's okay. That is not a problem at all. And even with that tiny little pucker that I have, I'm gonna keep it because my fear is I don't want y'all to think that I sew curves perfect every time. Sometimes I have a little pucker, and if it's tiny like that, I'm gonna let it slide. Okay, so let's do the other side. So this is the left side of your ice cream block, and now we're gonna do the right side. Right side, same thing. So we're gonna fold it in the middle, finger press this side. It just gives you a good aiming point when you're feeding it through to try to get those lined up. And then we're gonna flip the concave background piece face down and do about a 1/2 inch past, and I kind of use the little thing on my machine to measure, and then I will pin that, and then I'll try to pin it for y'all, but oh my gosh, I can't stand having extra things in my way, but I'm gonna try to do it for you. Okay, so there we go. We're gonna kind of keep this nice and flat, and I'm just flattening it out with my finger. Okay, and then we're gonna get it over here and get it under. I start sewing above on the background piece above the convex piece, the actual curved like ice cream piece. I start sewing above that and then work my way to the actual curve. Just works a little better for me. I need to do this with the needle stopping down in the down position. Oh my gosh, I just don't like how little the pins give you like no way to work with the fabric. It literally drives me insane. So I'm gonna ditch that bad boy. Sorry, if y'all like pins, I'm fantastic for you. I cannot do them. We don't get along. So I'm just gonna slowly work the curve through the machine. If I need to stop and kind of flatten out my fabric, I can, all while not pulling. Oh, dagnabbit, my press foot. All while not pulling my fabric. You do not want to pull the fabric because then you're going to end up with a very wavy, wonky piece. So just kind of keep pivoting it, smoothing out the fabric the best you can, and just doing your best. It's going to be a super cute block regardless. And as you can see, I'm just working it through nice and slow. I'm not Speedy Gonzalez over here. Wait. Here we go. And give yourself grace. These are pretty small curves, okay? I normally like to work with, you know, a 4 or 5 inch or a larger curve. These are 3-inch curves. So to work with the block size we were going for, I wanted to do like multiple ice creams, and so I had to do a smaller curve. So with that being said, you were working on some really small curves. So give yourself grace. And you're doing it fantastic. And there is, and again, we're gonna press towards the background piece or the convex curve, okay? Push this, the seam away from the curve very gently. You don't want a whole lot of pressure with the iron because you don't want to stretch the fabric. Okay, so here we go. Our first 2 curves are done. Now it's time to trim these up. Let's start with the left side of the cone first. We are wanting to end up with a 3-inch wide by 3.5 inch tall. So my width is going to be across the top of my ice cream, and the height, the tall, what I call tall, the height is going to be the edge, this other edge. So I'm going to turn this to its side, and then I'm going to lay my ruler like this, and I'm going to base my measurements off the 90-degree, the corner of the actual ice cream or convex piece, this actual ice cream piece. So I'm not measuring off of the background, I'm measuring off of the ice cream piece. So I'm gonna get my 3.5 right there by 3, right, 3 inches. So I've got my 3.5 inch right here. I've got my 3 inch here. I'm a little shy over here, but not enough to be concerned. And I'm gonna trim just like that. Then I'm going to flip it and I'm going to trim it up to the finished 3 by 3.5. So I line that up. Sorry, my head gets in there every time. So I've got 3 inches here and 3.5 inches here, okay? 3, 3.5. And I'm just gonna trim that up just like that. And then you have this beautiful little block, and you can't even tell there is a tiny, tiny little kink of fabric right there, but you cannot even tell. So now let's do the other side of the fabric, and we'll start off laying the roller down, measuring off the ice cream piece. We're gonna do 3.5 inches tall and 3 inches wide, and I'm measuring off this piece. So I'm following the 3.5 inch line on my ice cream piece and the other line over here. And I've got 3 inches by 3.5. Trim that up, rotate, and do it again. 3.5 inches tall, 3 inches wide. There we go. And now I have my beautiful ice cream block. Like, look how stinking cute. So, 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 so cute. So, I will say line these up and sew from the ice cream edge down, and then you can pin. What I like to do is line these up, and I'm gonna pin because you don't want a wonky top to your ice cream, okay? You want a nice, good curve, so I'm going to line these up and pin them in place to make sure I get my smooth curve I'm looking for. And we will sew this down. And slow and steady is going to be your biggest advantage to getting these right. And then you can see right there, my curve meets up perfectly. I'm gonna press this seam open, and that is one of my 3 ice cream blocks I need to do. So tips for sewing these curves. You can pin to start. You can pin the whole way through. I just feel like it offers me less maneuverability, availability to smooth and work the fabric through the machine. So I will say that's why I do not like pinning. You can see my center marks on here line up, so you can use that as a guide as you're pushing it through to make sure you're not stretching or pulling the fabric too much. And just take your time. If you have to rip, you have to rip. It's not a huge deal. I want you to enjoy curves, and I really hope you have a good first experience with them, because I want you to feel like you can open up a whole new world of quilting by having curves as an option for you to use in the future. I will use a flatter spray on here because this particular block has a lot of seams, and so later when we start piecing it together, it does get a tad bulky, and so I'm definitely going to try to get my seams as flat as humanly possible for this block. But there you go. And I can even, I mean, that just is so, that's just the coolest thing ever. Like, look at that little cute curve. So there you go, that's how we do curves. Now let's jump ahead and knock out a foundation paper piece. So again, when it comes to foundation paper piecing, just use the diagram in your pattern. You can kind of see with this, your ice cream block kind of coming together. So stinking cute. And we'll get that started. So if you haven't foundation paper piece before, no worries. I'm about to walk you through step by step to knock this bad boy out. So you have your template. You are going to put your template face down, and you can kind of see through it as you hold it up to the light. Like you can see through the template, okay? So you're gonna put it face down. Then you're going to lay your first piece down, which is this piece. You're going to lay your fabric face up for this first piece, okay? So you can see this is piece number 1. I'm gonna lay my template face down, lay my T1 template, and I wanna make sure that I have, you can see the line through the paper is right here, so I have a 1/4 inch overhang over all the lines, which I definitely do. That's why I make these pieces so big, okay? So here is my T1 shape, and I've got my fabric. The line is right here and right there, so I definitely have a 1/4 inch over all of it. Then I'm gonna take my T2 fabric, my fabric template, and so this one is face up, this one is gonna go face down, so right sides together on this one, and I'm just gonna line these up, okay? And I might even, since I have like a 1/2 inch overhang over this line, I'm just gonna do like that. That way I know I have enough when I fold this back in a minute to cover that whole shape, that whole triangle in the middle, okay? Okay, so that's what we're working with. Template's face down. T1 fabric is face up, T2 fabric is face down, and we have both of these fabrics hanging about a 1/4 inch over the line between T1 and shape 1 and shape 2 on your template. You can totally pin in place here, like maybe like that, like that. Now I can pick it up, I can hold it to the light, I can see, like you can see the light from my machine, that's about a 1/4 inch over that line. You can see it too from the above angle. And now we can flip it over and sew on this line between 1 and 2. We're gonna sew directly on top of this line. Few tips for foundation paper piecing. If your stitch is too big, your stitch will tear when you go to tear the paper off later. If your stitch is too small and you have to rip, so my stitch is roughly at a 2. Sorry, I'm like so tired, but I'll show you what mine looks like. But mine's at a 2. It works out for me pretty well. And you're just gonna sew right on top of that line. And there we go, off to the races. It sounds weird because it is going through paper, but it is what it is. Da, 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 da. And you just go right to the end of that line. And I'm going to trim my threads. So here you can see, I'll take that needle out now. I've sewn directly on that line. I stopped right here. I did not keep going because my line doesn't keep going. Now I'm going to fold the paper back on that line. Do not tear yet. I'm just folding the paper back on that line. When I fold the paper back on that line, this, I'm gonna keep all the paper to the one side, okay? And now I have this extra, this overhang fabric. I need to trim it up to just a 1/4 inch so I don't have too much bulk or waste. This is where the add a 1/4 ruler comes in super handy because it's got this little lip, this edge, and it bumps right up to the seam, and you just trim it off right there, and that gives you the perfect 1/4 inch. If you don't have the add a 1/4 ruler, don't stress. Just grab a ruler, line up the 1/4 inch marking directly on the seam, like that, and then, sorry, I'm a little under my machine a little bit, like that, and trim off the excess from that seam. And now what you can do is you will lay out the paper, and you're going to iron back this piece of fabric. And to check yourself, you make sure that you have complete fabric behind the number 1 shape, and then make sure you have fabric completely behind the number 2 shape, which I do, and you can see that through the light that I have the fabric entirely over both. It gets a little sketchy over here. It's a little shy, but it's still covering the line, so I'm not gonna worry about it too much. So now that we've done shape 1 and shape 2, now we can move over here to shape 3, and we're gonna do the same process. So we flip it over, we can tell that there is, the line is right here between shape 2 and shape 3, so we have plenty of fabric overhang. And then we even have enough over that top one, over this one up here, so we're ready to place T3 down. So T3 goes like this, so we're gonna lay it face down, because remember these two are face up, okay? We're gonna lay this one face down, roughly over that line between 2 and 3, about a little more than a 1/4 of an inch. So
I can see really well with the light of my machine, the fabric, and then you can kind of see it too. Right there, it's over the line. You can lay it down kind of, where'd my pin go? And then you can pin it in place so you don't have any movement while you are sewing. Not like it should, but, and then my fabric's right here and the line is right here. So I have plenty of fabric hanging over there and I should be golden. I'm going all the way to the edge down here. So then when I flip it, I know that I'm gonna cover everything I need to cover. So let's get that line sewed. So pretty much I'm gonna sew between 2 and 3 now. And you can start at either direction, but do the entire line. There we go. So now you can see I have sewn the line, the entire line between 2 and 3. I'm gonna take my pin out, flip it over. Then I'm actually gonna fold the paper back. And I'm gonna make sure all of my fabric and paper are over here, okay? Because over here, I'm gonna trim. I mean, you can always fold it back first to make sure it covers everything, but it clearly does. So then we're gonna fold that paper back and we're going to trim to 1/4 inch over here. I'll use my add a quarter this time. If you don't have an add a quarter, not a problem. Just line that 1/4 inch of your ruler up over it. Sorry, I gotta scoot over just a hair. There you go. There we go. And if you don't have the add a quarter, you would just lay this, any ruler you have with a 1/4 inch marking directly on top of the seam and do the same thing. Just making sure that all your fabric and all your paper are off to one side. Just the 2 pieces you just sewed, the little excess will be hanging this way, okay? And then same process, lay that back and see, you can start seeing the cone come together. So now we've done shapes 1, 2, and 3 onto shape 4. We're gonna take this and we're just gonna try to get a 1/4 inch overhang over that line, which if I go like this and hold it up, you can hold it up to the ceiling light, to a flashlight, to your phone light, whatever you want. And you can see clearly where there's a 1/4 inch. My line is right here, so I clearly have a 1/4 inch. You can pin in place and then I'm just gonna go ahead and feed mine through. Off those threads. Coolest part about foundation paper piecing is it helps you get these super, super sharp points. So it's so fun to be able to have that. And then you're gonna check, make sure that if you pull it back, it covers the whole paper, which it does. Now we can fold back the paper and all the fabric, except for the edge of the 2 pieces we just sewed together. Take your ruler, lay it down right on top of that seam. Oh, I did it kind of backwards this time. You can do it like this. Lay it right on top of that seam. And slice it off. Slice anything over a 1/4 inch off. And then you can see here that my pink in this spot wasn't quite enough, but it's definitely more than 1/8 of an inch. So enough for the seam to grab. I'm not going to stress over it. And now I can press this piece back. I mean, look at those. They look so good. So, so good. And now for our final piece number 5, we're gonna take this, hold it up to some light somewhere, and see that you have about a 1/4 inch overhang between these shapes in 5, that line right here. Pin in place if you so desire. Take your time. There is no reason to rush through these blocks because it doesn't make it any more fun to just rush and make yourself all bothered. So just take your time. You can do it. You can handle the curves. You can handle the foundation paper piece, and you are going to love the block and be so proud of yourself once you accomplish this block. And so right on top of that line that's just above shape 5, unpin, check that the fabric covers the whole shape, and it does. Fold back the paper along that seam you just made. Flip it over using a ruler, trim up to a 1/4 inch. There we go. And slice that bad boy off and trim up your threads because I can't stand threads hanging all over the place. And now you're gonna iron this piece back. So stinking cool. Oh, it's so cool. So that is how you make the cone. Now you will trim up around this block. So now that you have this all done, you will trim up around the block. I believe the final block measurements are like 6.5, 5.5 by 6.5. So just trim right around the template. I personally do not rip the paper off until right before I'm going to piece the whole, I call it a mini block in the pattern, right before I'm going to piece this all together. So we'll do that next. I will sew the strips together, the little strip set that goes with this Fabric E little mini block. And so there you go. Now I have this crisp, clean block, and I'm not going to pull the papers off until I get a little further down. So I have my cone, I've got my ice cream, and now I need my strip sets that go with it. Each little mini ice cream block has a different, their stripes are in different places in different orders, so pay attention to that. So here I have one up here with the Fabric E on top, and then I have two down there with the background fabric on top. So I'll make those strips real quick, and then I can show you how to piece the whole block together. Or the mini block. You'll make 3 mini blocks to make the whole block. So I need 3 whites or background fabric, whatever your fabric F is. 1, 2, 3. And then the 3 of the matching background. Can you tell I liked the stripe theme when I was designing my 2 blocks? Anyways, just line these up slow and steady through the machine. Don't speed them through or you will get that curve to them, okay? Don't pull, don't push, just glide them right through the machine. Feeding these strip sets through your machine, make sure you're not pulling or tugging. That way you can keep them as straight as possible. And then another way to keep them super straight is when you're pressing, finger press them open first and then press with the iron. That way you're not adding extra curve or stretch to the strip. I just feel like stripes are such a summer staple that I had to include them in both blocks because that's really was our only theme when we started out designing our blocks was summer. We didn't have the camp theme until a little later on. So goes to show, you never know, but I just think stripes are so crucial to summer. So crucial to summer. Alrighty, and we are ready to piece it together, so I'll sew this one together. And this one, I don't want any more bulk, so I am gonna press it towards the background color because I just want least amount of bulk as possible. Now I'm gonna rip my paper. So I'm going to take my nail, or you can take like the edge of your rotary cutter and just really go over that seam and get it nice. It's already been perforated by your needle, but the more you fold it in both directions and fold it and stuff, it'll just tear so much easier. Throw all of these in the trash. They are no longer really useful, and you will line these up and sew them together. Such a cool mini block. So there you go. There is one mini block, and my cone lines right up with the edge of my ice cream. Got the nice rounded top here. So much stinking fun, and now it makes me really want to go downstairs and get some ice cream. But I'm gonna sew the rest of these together, and I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions at all, please comment below, message me on Instagram, email us. Like, you can handle it, I promise. Tell yourself you can do it, take your time, and it'll totally be fun. So I'm going to bust out these others real quick, and then I'll be back to piece the 3 together at the end. So I have all 3 of my mini blocks pieced together, and they each include a little small strip set, the ice cream, and the cone. And now I just get to piece these all together. There are a few seams that match up, so just keep an eye out for those. Some of your stripes will match up, and some of the little pieces off the foundation paper piecing will nest up too. So if you come across a seam that doesn't nest, you can obviously just fold it open and give yourself a way to nest.
And yeah, I can't get these apart, but if I could, I would fold them open to nest them to get that top seam to line up. So, but yeah, just go on and piece them together. Check your diagram, make sure that you are doing it in the right color order, and go for it. That concludes week 10, block 9, the snack time block, focusing on curves and foundation paper piecing. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you take your time. I hope you work on improving these skills and know that there's not really a hard skill in quilting. There are just some skills that take a little bit more time than others. And curves and foundation paper piecing are definitely one of those. You are capable, you can totally do it, and I have full faith in you. I cannot wait to see your blocks. So reminder, post your full block photo by Sunday night, and that way you can get entered in this week's giveaway, sponsored by Athena Workshop and Fat Quarter Shop. I really hope you enjoy it. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and just take your time and enjoy it. And this makes me want to go get another sherbet popsicle right now. So until next time, happy quilting.